What is the national debt? How much money the national government owes, including all local governments, is the national debt. The national debt includes money owed to national and foreign creditors. A creditor is somebody, a company, organisation, or government that is owed money. Money borrowed from national creditors is the internal debt, while the external debt is money borrowed from foreign creditors. The national debt is all the money a country's government has borrowed and still owes, that is, money it has not yet paid back. We also use the terms sovereign debt, federal debt, and government debt with the same meaning as national debt. The Corporate Finance Institute says, national debt refers to the total of all debts owed by the government of a country. It mostly comes from bonds and other debt securities, but can also be from direct borrowing from international institutions such as the World Bank. Do not confuse national debt with the annual public sector budget deficit. The annual public sector budget deficit is the difference between how much a government receives in taxes and how much it spends in a single year. Most of us, including many people who work in the media, perceive the national debt as a burden, that is, something negative. Many major infrastructure projects, however, such as bridges, subway train networks, tunnels, ports, airports, hospitals, and highways, exist thanks to government borrowing. National and local governments typically raise money by issuing government bonds, bills, and securities. Some countries, especially emerging nations with low credit ratings, may borrow from the World Bank, IMF, or other organizations. Government bonds are issued by the national government. They are typically denominated in local currency. Sometimes the money is raised in US dollars or another foreign currency. Over 70% of the sovereign debt of the world's emerging economies is dollar-denominated. If a government issues bonds denominated in a foreign currency, there is a risk that the national debt may grow dramatically if its domestic currency devalues. This was a serious problem in Latin America during the first half of the 1980s. Economists, investors, and journalists often look at a country's national debt to GP ratio, which is often expressed as a percentage or share of GDP. This is the ratio of the national debt and the country's GDP. GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. A low ratio indicates that the country is in a good position to pay back or service the debt. A high national debt to GDP ratio, on the other hand, suggests that the country does not produce enough to pay back or service its national debt. If investors, banks, and other countries stop financing a country's national debt, it might need to ask the International Monetary Fund for help.